And here we are with Bob Molle, which he's such an individual that I met on LinkedIn. I to be super honest, I owe him two coffees because I came a little bit late to our first interview. So we will make it up later when we meet in person at some point when we are in the same city or what have you. But he's a superstar, author, speaker, golden medalist. There's CFL, wins and things like that. So if you can kick it off, Bob, with everything that you can provide in terms of the story of Bob, let's start with that.
Start with Bob, right? The problem child, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'll start you back. I'm a Saskatchewan native, and I grew up one of four boys, so I was number three, so the troubled one, the rebel of the family. And everybody would say I was the black sheep of the family, just didn't toe the line and kind of went in my own little world all the time. But great upbringing, very fortunate. Mom was a nurse at a little rural Saskatchewan town, and dad was a policeman, but he came from a little rural town, Saskatchewan too. So that's the area I grew up in, but went through sports, all competitive boys, got along really well, even though I think I was in the fight every time. They said one thing was consistent. My mom said if there was a fight, it was Bob and this or Bob and that. It was never anybody else. Bob was in the middle of it, that's for sure. So but fantastic upbringing, great parents, great everything. I got recruited because I was not bad. I played hockey, football, and wrestling all through high school, and at a high level. And I got recruited to Simon Fraser University in early '80s for a football. I was the first one to get a football and wrestling scholarship. I had two scholarships offered to me there. And so I was the first unique person to get a kind of a double scholarship, which was, I wanted to do two sports and see if I could do it. And that started my life off. And great coaching. I was extremely fortunate to have great coaching all my life, which you can't put enough value on that. Now you look back on it and I was going, I was the best, blessed person in the world to be, and so fortunate to have such great people around me. And in fact, if I was to take one piece of my success, the most important would be the relationships I had with my coworker, fellow athletes, fellow coaches, fellow everything. I was just surrounded by such great people. And I had a pretty good college record at the time at SFU in wrestling. I was about 139-5, I think my record was in college. And at 21, I'd already made the Olympic team for Canada. I was the youngest person on the team. And fortunately enough, in there, the guy I actually lost to, which is another story, I lost in the Olympic final. I got a silver medal, but at 21, and Canada hadn't won an Olympic medal in wrestling in over 75 years. So it was kind of put me on the chart at 21. I was still going to school. And then that was 84, 85. I was already drafted pro football. So I'd finished my degree. So I went on to, after the Olympics, I just retired at 21. Everybody goes, why are you retiring at 21? Well, going on to pro ball, right? And because probably, the average age of the Olympic team for wrestling anyways was probably, mid-20s, 27, 28 kind of thing. And I already had an Olympic medal. I already been to 4 national championships and stuff like that. Been there, done that. And then I wanted to Pan Am Games. I've been to, Pan Ams and World Cup and World Championships and Olympics, and experienced all those things, and great experiences and great camaraderie with teammates. So I already got drafted in the USFL. You're probably too young to remember that, but I was drafted by Tampa Bay in the USFL and Winnipeg in the CFL in '85. So I I'd already finished my degree, so that's when I transferred over to pro football. And after pro football, in '88, I'd already won a cup, Grey Cup, and won another one in '90. But in '88, at age I'm guessing 25, I was the first person in the world to have an Olympic medal and a Grey Cup ring. So that kind of separated me out right there. And when I was at the same time, when I was playing pro football, I was coaching a wrestling team. The University of Manitoba came to me and said, "Hey, would you mind taking over a wrestling team?" It wasn't very good at the time. And I said, "Sure." And I took over that. So I was going from football practice to wrestling practice. And I just got married and I had a kid. So there was like, you talk about the book, Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. You got so many things going in your hands. You're juggling like a crazy man, Louis. So yeah, pro football. Yeah. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. So what's your day like when you got a baby and you just moved your wife or new wed and moved her to Winnipeg. She came from Victoria. She just started a new job as a lawyer. And now at the time, and then so we already had a kid. Plus I'm playing pro football. Plus I took on another job and I was head coach of the wrestling team. And fortunately, 3 years later, recruited nationwide, got some great kids in. We had a fantastic team, and we had a team that wasn't ranked in the top 10, and we turned it around to third year in there, won a national championship. So turned the team around too. So won 2 national championships as a coach. So I kind of had a parlay of a couple things, from wrestling as being an athlete, then pro football, and as well as playing pro football, I was coaching the wrestling team too. So kind of did all three and won a national championship there. So that was the kind of everything that spearheaded it in sport at the time, right?
Yeah. And one anecdote that I would like to talk about is when you got soft in a second of someone that you went to visit. I think it was a university. What university was it? But a guy that you won multiple times before, and then it was and the crowd was cheering for him and whatever, and you just slammed him like 3-4 times.
Washington State, Wendell Ellis, where I lost the match.
I know. So this one, because you got overconfident, and your coach told you, "Hey, you would have taken all the heat that he said." But you said, "Hey, just take it as a learning and move forward," which is one of the things that are the most important things for myself. I haven't finished it, but the book is like getting comfortable being uncomfortable. You got confident, overconfident.
You're just bringing up the most embarrassing moment of my life. I got no self-esteem now after that one, but that's that one of the stories in the book, because I think I told you earlier, my college record when I was wrestling for SFU was 139-5 or something. He was one of the losses, Wendell Ellis, big man. We were wrestling at Washington State University. I'd wrestled them probably, a dozen times before in different tournaments or something like that, and beat him every time pretty handily. But he was a big boy. He's probably 6'5", probably about 360 pounds, right? And he was ranked nationally. He wasn't he was a pretty good wrestler. He was ranked in the top probably 5 in the country at the United States in the wrestling. And we have a dual meet down there, but they claimed it and promoted it as, Canada's Olympic silver medalist wrestling All-American Wendell Ellis at Washington State University. So they promoted the hell out of it. So they sold out their basketball stadium for the arena for it, right? So you got how many 10, 12,000 people there, and around that, how the U.S. can just create the crowds for sports, right, and hype it up. Yeah. And around that's the school band, and around that's the school cheerleaders, and they're just going crazy, and everybody's waiting for the heavyweight match of the two, right? And I'm not really thinking anything of it because I've beat them so many times before, right? And the match went on, but everybody's screaming and yelling, and I thought I go off and I score a couple points early on him, and so I'm up 4 or 5-0, and then I relax, and he throws me, and I get caught. And 360 pounds on you, Louis? Wow, when 360 pounds gets on you ain't getting off your back on that. And he pins me. To date, the most embarrassing thing. So I'm ranked like number 2 in the world at the time, right? And I get pinned. And I'll never forget this light. So I get pinned and I got my head down. So the crowd goes into a standing ovation. They storm the match. The band starts going crazy. The cheerleaders are going crazy. And this is the last match of the dual meet because I'm the heavyweight, right? I'm the last match. And I got my head down and I'm just like dejected. I'm sitting in the corner after all this screaming's been going on. And the coach, all the wrestlers kind of go in for the shower. I've got my head between my legs. And I'm sitting there, and I remember my coach walked by me. And like I said, Mike, he was my Olympic coach too, right? Mike Jones. And he walks by me and he looks at me and he goes, "When you lose, don't lose the lesson." And I never forgot that. I said, you know what is losing about? Losing is when you don't learn the lesson. You know what I mean? Why did you lose? You didn't prep hard enough. You didn't do this. You know that? What's the definition of insanity, Lewis? You know what I mean? Doing the same thing over and over again. And then that. So what were you going to do? Guess what? Get yourself ready for every match because everybody's coming at you now. We got Olympic medal on your back. Guess what? Get ready. Anyways, I wrestled them. I got beat there, most embarrassing thing, but I learned a lesson that I stay with for my life. If I screw up on something, I go look back and I go, that will not happen again. You know what I mean? I'm like, boom, razor sharp and all my stuff. If I've lost the lesson, I go, it won't happen twice to me. And it was, rocked me. It shook my world. But yeah, I learned the lesson at a time. I ended up wrestling him like 2 more major tournaments in the final, right? And, kicked the shit out of him. And, but I was ready. You know what I mean? That won't happen again. So a great lesson. I still think about that line. You know what I mean? That line is embedded in my brain for life. You know what? Losing, and a lot of people get upset about losing. What did you learn? You know what I mean? I just think different than most people. Yeah.
We're going to make sure to send this episode to him so that he remembers that you beat him 2 more times after that. Just kidding. So you took all this breadth of knowledge and life experiences and all the work that you did and the mindset that you developed on the sports, and you took it to the enterprise world, corporate level. So obviously we will love to talk about that. And you have been coaching like massive enterprises and help them with mindset, with grit, with all the systems that you have. And you also were hired by Robert Kiyosaki, and you have the forward here. Obviously, being an entrepreneur, whoever doesn't know Robert Kiyosaki is like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get hired by them, toured with them all over the world, really. Poland, you name the country. It's how many different countries I was in with them, right? From States to stuff like that. And I went on the tour with them for a couple of years. Quite exhausting, to tell you the truth. A lot of travel. I don't recommend that for everybody. You're in a plane every other day in different country and time changes and stuff like that. But that was a big part of the program and growing. He did the forward to my book, so that, and the name of the book didn't hurt either because I bought that trademark for that, actually, the name way back in the day too. So yeah, the book's going good, everything. And Robert Kiyosaki was a part of the touring.
Love it. Yeah. So that being said, how's the right now the work that Bob is doing? I saw there's some obviously your website. You coach companies with a lot of things, with mindset, with systems and whatnot. So what are some of the breakthroughs that you have had with them? What are you helping them with? Is it more Canadian or is it more US based companies?
Yeah, Canadian and US. I'd probably with my companies, yeah, it would be lean high. 98% of my companies are Canadian. Probably a couple percentages that I've done some stuff in Mexico, did some stuff in the United States, still do, and but majority of all my work is in Canada, and that's the most the breakthroughs. And this is actually interesting. I find it common sense, but I learned that I was very fortunate. I had a great mentor way back in the day, and he'd studied Eastern philosophies, and I took a course with him, like guessing 40 years ago or something like that. And unfortunately, he was a great mentor, and he taught me an Eastern philosophy. It's been there for years, and he just brought it forward and turned it to English. And I took a course with him, and I remember one of the first things he told me when I sat down in his course, and it changed my life. He said, Bob, we're going to talk about the 3 most important things that you can do to change your life. And he said the word relations. And I thought he just meant relationships. And I got off and I wanted to start bragging about all my great relationships I had. And I thought, oh, hey, I got this, I got that. And then he defined it for me. And in an Eastern philosophy, relations meant the ability to make new relationships and make existing ones better. And I went, wow, I've never heard that definition before. Like always thinking about, and that became the catalyst for me to go out and make new relationships all the time. Where I was an extroverted person at the time, so it wasn't hard for me. But just to see how you catapulted that, he asked me, who are your good relationships? And then he asked me the tough question, because I started bragging about all these great relationships I have. And then he turns around and says, who don't you have good relationships with that? And I wanted to just tell him the ones I'm good at. And then I spoke out and I said, well, you know, this guy wrestled in the States, the guy I lost to in the Olympic final, Bruce Baumgartner. He said, you know, we speak English, don't get along with him. You know what I mean? Talks up, you know, he's a brash American. I kind of got that impression, the cocky American, Well, he wasn't a bad wrestler. He was the first person in the history of the world to win 4 Olympic medals. It had never been done in the history of the sport, right? His name was Bruce Baumgartner, but he was 84, 88, 92, 96 Olympic medalist. And then he turned around, he says, well, why don't you have a good relationship with him? And I think the only reason I didn't have a good relationship, because every time I went to Pan Am Games, he beat me. World Championships, he beat me. You know what I mean? World Cup. And he says, you should develop relationships with everybody, Bob. And I went, really? And it changed my context to how you know, because it's kind of like, you know, he was always the enemy before. Mm-hmm. And then he says, no, you should develop relationships. So we one time we're at a wrestling tournament, and we're in a big tournament in Europe or something like that. Knew, you know, we should be talking and training and helping each other. And I reached out to him one time. He drew a pretty tough match right off the bat. And I walked up to him and I said, hey, Bruce, I said, you got a pretty tough match right off the bat. I think he had the Russian at the time. Back then it was called the Soviet Union when we wrestled. And he goes, yeah. I said, would it help if I helped you warm up today? You know, that would be great. Can I meet you here on the mat in 20 minutes? And this started a relationship, and they warmed them all up. That goes out and wins. And then he realizes he returns the favor. So he comes back with the olive branch. Hey, Bob, you got East Germany, Schroeder. And I go, yeah. He says, would it help if I warmed you up? That'd be it. And he warmed me up. I won the match, and we turned around to each other, and we just started a relationship. So the thing started going. Like I had no idea where it'd end up. And I'm only 21 at the time. I'm ranked 5th in the world at the time. He's the number 1 ranked wrestler in the world at the time. And I get a call in my apartment at Simon Fraser University back in prior to 1984. Phones me up. I don't know who's on the phone. Picks up the phone. I go, hi, Bob here. Hey, Bob, it's Bruce. I go, Bruce? Bruce who? You know what I mean? It's Bruce Baumgartner. I go, Bruce, how'd you get my number? He says, well, I phoned your athletic director. He gave me a wrestling coach, and they just gave me your number. I said, what's up? He says, Bob, I get all this money sponsored to me from different companies. Could be Walmart, could be Walgreens. And he says, I literally go to my mailbox every day, and I got a bunch of checks that people sponsor me because I'm the number 1 ranked person in the world. And I'm going, why are you telling me this? You know, like, and he goes, well, I can't spend my money on clothes and cars and stuff like that. My money has to be spent for training dollars. So I have to allocate it to something. Then he says, I want my training dollars to be spent on you. And I went, wow. And I go, what's the value of a relationship? He's phoning me up, the number 1 ranked guy in the world. I'm 21 years old. I'm like, wow. And he goes, I'm the assistant coach at Oklahoma State University. They were national champions at the time around there. They're ranked right up there. I'm the assistant coach here. I got all the facilities. I got access to everything. I'll fly you down, pay for your flights. I'll rent you a house furnished house. I get all the food in the cafeteria, so you got access to all your food you want. My wife's a physio. We'll take care of all the injuries and everything we got. And how about you and I? You come down and you and I get ready for the Olympics together. And I went, like this, you know what I mean? And everybody back then would train in their own country. No one would go outside, especially train with the competition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden I got the number one ranked guy in the world paying for me to come train with him. And I go, wow, what's the value of a good relationship, eh? And we trained together, got along extremely well, trained our brains out, and before the Olympics. And then quite honestly, like I would have never made the Olympic final. I trained with him, and it taught me so many things, but I never would have got to that Olympic final level if I hadn't have trained with him. And one of the biggest things he did to me was talk about strengths. And it was interesting because like wrestling's oldest sport in history, right? And go back as far as since man was made. And guess what? There's a million different moves in wrestling. Do we know them all? Yes. Are we perfect at every one? No. And we sat in a room. We didn't have internet then. We had VHS tapes, and he had like the size of my office here. He had VHS tapes on every single wrestler in the world. And I never forgot what he said. He said that. And I said, we're going to go through every person and that. And so if we draw that person in the Olympics, we're going to know what 3 moves we're going to do on them. And I'm kind of like, 3? I go, man, I got a repertoire of, how many thousand I'm good at. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? And he's going, no, all we're doing is 3 moves. And he said, we're specializing. We're going to do what we do best, Bob. Only 3 moves we're going. And it changed my whole context. I go, and we talk about strengths. And all he did was saying, Bob, these are your best 3 moves on this guy. These are your best 3. And we went back and forth and mapped it out on every single wrestler, what 3 moves we're going to do. So all you do is you do what you do best, right? All the time. Wash, rinse, repeat. And once I found out that, it changed my whole thing, because I wanted to do, hey, I got, 70 moves I could try on this person. No, we're not doing that, Bob. We're just working on our strengths. You know what I mean? What does Wayne Gretzky do? Go behind the net kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like what he does is what he does all the time. He does it best, right? And that's where I found strength, focusing on what you do best and just dialing down on that. Such a difference. And when I started doing those with companies, they went, wow. And what I can do with companies, because I do a strength test. There's a thing called Strength Finder, and I find out what their strengths are, and then I get them to focus on that. Mm-hmm. And Bruce and I did that, and him and I just followed him to a T. And guess what? We end up in the Olympic final against each other. So what's the value of a relationship, right? We're a lot of people that. And then number 2, focusing on your strengths too, which is I just found, and then I brought that to the business world, and then I started organizing companies by using Strength Finder, and they just went, wow, Bob, and redid all these companies. And so it's fulfilling on my side too, right? And I do a couple of things. We talk about management, how are their relationships? I talk about other things. I talk about strengths. And then people have never done it. They always work on their weaknesses, right? Yeah,
that's transformational. Like, honestly, chapter 13, jumping in with both feet on your book, it's exactly what you're talking about, which is making sure that you don't half-ass your thing and just focus on like the one thing, or the, like in your case, the 3 moves that will take you to the next level, so you don't have to think about, let's see which product, or let's see which move I'm going to apply. By the time that you produce an action, it's going to be too late. You're going to be pinned down on the floor against the competition, which is insane. So honestly, one of the best things I've heard in a while, and it resonates with a bunch of authors and a bunch of things that I've read as well. I wanted to just maybe close it up with what are obviously I want to have your best contact information if someone is watching and they want to they just want to contact you and they want to ask you whatever. So website is the best, or email. What's the best avenue to contact you?
Yeah, multiple ways of doing that. LinkedIn is always there. It's easy for people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
it can start off with that one too. So not a problem on that side of it. LinkedIn, number one. I don't even know about number one. Your website's out there, so they can contact me through the website. But those two by far the best, or those are the easiest probably on the internet.
Yeah. I really appreciate the time that you spent with us. Honestly, super inspirational. So I hope that whoever watched this gets the value and gets the inspiration and the actions that they need to take to move forward. So many takeaways. We will obviously put your information so that the people can follow you and then ask you questions. And with that, I thank you. Thank you for being here, and we'll be in touch.
Pleasure.